Hi, this is Todd Miller with the Dario Strings. Welcome back to Guitar 101. This is lesson 11, the CAGED system. This lesson is a little more of an advanced concept, and it's your ticket to fingerboard mastery on the guitar. It's going to give you the ability to play any chord or scale anywhere on the fingerboard. So the CAGED system is based on 5 different shapes: the C shape, the A shape, the G shape, the E shape, and the D shape. And these are all open chord shapes that you should already know. It's a lot of information and a lot of ways to apply it. One of my favorite cliches is, how do you eat an elephant? Oh, you ask. One bite at a time. So, your CAGED system, one bite at a time, little by little. Get one part down, really build on that, and add the next part. So our goal for this lesson is going to be able to play a D chord in every position on the fingerboard. Okay, so let's take a look at our chord shapes. The first one is our C shape, and hopefully you can see how there's a little C chord in there that you already know how to play. It's got a new fingering, but the difference is you've got a bar behind it. So your first finger is actually going to bar, and it's going to turn this into a movable shape. Let's take a look at that on the guitar. Here's our open C chord. So now my first finger is going to take the place of the nut. If I put it back here behind the nut, you can see what it would look like if I had to bar that chord. So that would be a C chord if I had to bar it, if there was a fret here and not a nut. So if I move it up a half step, now I've got a C major shape, but I've turned it into a movable shape. So it's not a C chord anymore, but we do call it a C shape. So we've turned that regular old happy C chord that we know into a movable shape. Okay? So we're going to do that with all 5, the C, the A, the G, the E, and the D shape. And actually, those are the only chord shapes that we use on the guitar. Everything else is just variations of those 5 shapes. Let's go back to our sheet. All right? So the next shape is the A shape. Okay? And you can see that looks like an A chord. And I also need to draw your attention to the roots. You need to know where those circled notes are. And I should have brought your attention to that in the C chord also, but you can take a look at that when you need to. So we need to know where those root notes are in the shape, because that is going to define the chord. That's going to tell us what key that shape is in. Next is our G shape. Notice the roots, and hopefully you can see that little G chord in there, but once again it's a new fingering, and our first finger is taking the place of the nut. Next is the E shape. See where the roots are. You can see that little E chord in there. And then finally is the D shape. This one's a little different. I've added a note in the bass that we don't normally play with a D chord. You might have played it with your thumb. Oftentimes you'll see a D with an F sharp in the bass, and that's what you're seeing here. But that's just a good note to kind of be able to see, since we sometimes we might want to play some different voicing using that shape. But let's go ahead and do each of these shapes in the key of D. All right, so we're going to take our C shape, and we're going to have to go, okay, the root note is under the pinky on the A string. So I'm going to move that shape so that the note under my pinky on the A string is a D. We're going to move these all to the key of D, just like we did with our bar chords. Same premise, we just have new shapes and the roots are in new locations. So now we've got our D major chord using C shape. My pinky's on the D root note. Looks like a C shape, but now it's a D chord. So now we're going to do a D major chord using A shape. The root note happens to be also on the A string. The difference is that now the root note is under our first finger. So we have the A shape in the key of D, a D major chord using A shape. Hopefully you can hear it sounds the same. It's just what we call a different voicing. The next thing we're going to do is our D major chord using G shape. So this one looks like a G major chord, and the root note is under our third finger on the E string. So I'm going to climb up here, I'm going to find a D on the E string, and then I'm going to plug in my shape. This one's not as practical to play, but it's very useful. You'll use it in lots of different ways. So here's my D major chord using G shape. Okay. Also remember that these move in order. So we started with the C shape. After the C shape always comes the A shape. Now we're on to the G shape. The next shape is going to be the E shape. So that's the beauty of the CAGED system. It's kind of a good little acronym to kind of keep them together. All right, so after the G shape, we're going on to the E shape. The E shape also has the root on the 6th string, but once again, we're going to change fingers. So now it is under our 1st finger, so I'm going to find a D note on the E string, put it under my 1st finger, and I'm going to plug in my E shape. Okay, and so then finally we're going to get to the D shape. The D shape has the root under our 1st finger on the D string. So I'm going to find that D. In this case, I'm going to go to the 12th fret and find the D right there, and I'm going to plug in my D shape chord. Now, you can also think of this as the open D chord, which is really the same thing. We're just playing it 1 octave higher. Okay? So that is the beginning of your CAGED system. Let's do it one more time. C shape, A shape, G shape, E shape, and D shape. That's probably a good place to stop. So I encourage you to experiment with that, get to where you can play all 5 of those chords in the key of D, and then try to play them in another key. You might play them in the key of A. The only difference is going to be your starting point. If I'm in the key of A, for example, my first shape is going to be the A shape. So in the pattern, G is the next shape. So if I start on A, the next shape is going to be the G shape. So I'm starting on the A shape, which is friendly because it's in the open position. So then the next A chord is going to be G shape, followed by E shape, followed by D shape, followed by C shape, back where we started, and then an octave higher with the A shape. All right, so that's probably a lot for you to think about right now, so put some time into that. Take the time you need to really memorize those shapes and memorize those patterns and do some applying with it. Thanks for watching.